Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today we have a wonderful guest, really interesting guest, Janine Capaldi, who specialises in social media and helping people build and get leads in coaching and training as well, which is a very challenging area. Janine's a really interesting guest and she specialises in LinkedIn. So I want to thank you, Janine, for joining us today and providing us with your time. Yeah, it's really nice to have you on board.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Fantastic. And it can be really challenging. I'm sure we've got coaches watching and trainers watching. It can be really challenging to build a business in coaching. And the world's a changed place. When I first got involved in coaching and training, Janine, it was like about 1 million years ago. And there was none of this out there. There was no LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the stuff that people use these days. It was pretty much word of mouth. For me, it was a challenge making that transition because technologically, it was like literally sink or swim because the world was a different place and the transition sort of crept up on us. These days, people are brought up on social media. You've got more of an insight, no doubt. But from a coaching point of view, can you give us a bit of an insight in terms of what sort of people, how can you help people get a presence, or is it a presence you help them get, or how can they be more proactive on social media where you can reach millions of people, whereas you can't reach those people in the space of a week physically? So what do you do, Janine, to help people?
It's a really good question. I think it's about applying what you would do without social media to social media. So whatever it is you're going to do, regardless of, I work with coaches and training organizations, but whatever it is you do, you're always going to want to start with, who are you talking to? Who are you, like, what's your niche? Like, who are the people whose problems you can solve?
Yeah.
And you would do that regardless of whatever kind of way that you're going to market, whether you're going to networking meetings or it is word of mouth. Like, it's all going to be about, this person can help solve this problem. And it's about being able to show that you can do that on social media. So like you said, it is about building a presence. It is about engagement. And it is about kind of connecting with people in a way that is, for me, it's about kind of a true and honest and value-led relationship. And I managed to do that, and I do that on social media, if that makes sense, specifically for me through LinkedIn. But it's applying those processes, those methods of relationship building to social media.
Yeah, that's really interesting you say. It's like an extension of our sales that we would do outside and bring it in there. How can, say, a coach like generate leads, and should they be writing articles? And it's hard to know, I think, where to start because there's so much out there, Janine. That's what I found in the beginning, really. It's really difficult to know where to start. What do I do? Do I write articles? Do I post whatever? And that's the biggest challenge, I think, from what I can see. But obviously different coaches have got different issues, one would think, in terms of promoting themselves. But what would you say would be, now, where does anyone start? If someone's got no knowledge, if what they're doing is not working for them, what can they do to get themselves out there?
Yeah, so I guess my first tip would be that there's so many different social media platforms. I mean, there's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. There's so many, and I think that the mistake a lot of people make is that they try and spread themselves too thinly and do like a little bit across all of them and don't really get the results that they want. And so my recommendation would be that to choose the one that's right for you. The one that's right for me is LinkedIn, because I find that is where that is a lot of the time where coaches are. And also it is yes, it's a social media platform, but it is still very much where people come to for business reasons. So they are there for business. What people are posting is very much about in relation to where they work or their career. You don't really get people kind of posting social things on LinkedIn, and because of that, it means that people are much more open to doing business with you and connecting and having those conversations. Like it's almost like it's it's unlikely that people are going to be trying to connect for social reasons on LinkedIn, for example. Going back to what you said about like what should people be doing, I think it really depends on how far you want to take your strategy. So one thing is actively connecting with people that are relevant to your niche. And what I say to my clients is, it's, yes, you're connecting with people, but you're saying why, and you're doing it because you can help solve somebody's problems. We're still putting in all of those, what you do, but people don't like to be sold to. So it's not like you would go to somebody and be like, I can do this for you. It is still very much about relationship building, adding value, sharing information that is going to really help them. And again, you can do that by posting regularly, like writing articles, sharing articles that are relevant to the area that you work within. And a great one that I found that has really worked for me is video. I've found that people have kind of got to know me a little more, and they see my face, they can hear me talk about like what I'm passionate about, how I can help them, tools and tips and strategies, and get to know me more than they could do if they were perhaps just reading something that I'd written. But like everything, when you're building, if this is about like building leads and building relationships and getting those potential clients, it is about being like persistent and consistent all the time. Like just putting an article up and saying, oh well, I didn't get anything from it, that's not going to be enough. It's a marketing strategy.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a really, really good point. Now, one time I was running a course, an NLP course, and one of the guys in the course who works for some organizations, a social media marketing person, and the role was new to me. I didn't hear about the role a year ago. And he says to me that the company were intrigued about me. And I said, well, what's the intrigue? They go, well, you've got a huge social media following. How have you done it? I said, I didn't know. And he goes, you've got a bigger social media following than what we do. And I said, well, I just do what I love. I just, do videos, write content and enjoy it. I've never really taken the time to see where I'm up to. And then I realized, I said, wow, I have, and I ended up writing a short course in it to share with people, some of the strategies I used, and I sort of modeled people using NLP who had a big presence. And everything you said there really is spot on, because people, they put one video out and it's like they want the world to come to them, and it's consistency really. And over a few years I've sort of like done radio, done articles, and writing, because it was coming from in here, something I really, really enjoyed to do. I never thought, okay, if I put that out there, will I get this much? And I realized that whichever way you look at it, the time you use is obviously, you're not paying for it, but it's costing you time that you could be doing something else. There's always a price on it, I think, with social media. So I think it is important for me, if you've got time to use on social media, to use it as effective as you can do, because the danger is, I found, is that you could be on there and spend 2-3 hours on there, but from the point of view of if you're not getting anything back from that, then it's 2-3 hours you could have been working, spending your family, or do other things as well. And that's, I think, really important stuff. And for me, the way I did it was pretty much how you mentioned. Not that I knew anything at the time what I was doing, I sort of fell into it, but I sort of realized, okay, what do I like doing? What am I passionate about? And I found for me that I echo your sentiments, where LinkedIn was probably the most useful on business-wise, whereas the other platforms like Facebook, these days you've got Instagram too and other stuff too, Twitter as well. They probably weren't from a business point of view, but what they were good for, I think, from my opinion, is to sort of let people know what you're up to. So on Facebook Business, you can sort of show people what you're doing and where you are and what you're sort of getting up to, professional point of view. But I felt LinkedIn, yeah, for sure. Albeit, I think, have you found that LinkedIn's changed over the years, Janine? I found this a bit different these days. I think it's getting a bit more social media type thing. I don't know, maybe it's just who I friend on there, but I seem to be more and more like, it seems to be not that I'm there's a rules and regulations, and I know there are obviously rules and regulations to the point, but not that there's a strict policy in place about what people share to a point. But I find that LinkedIn is becoming, I wouldn't say like Facebook, but there are the more Facebooky type posts, if there is such a thing on there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my friend.
Yeah. Maybe it's who you're connected with. I don't know. Yeah, no, I do think that there are there's definitely been changes, and I mean, one of the big changes has been how people use groups.
Yes, interesting.
I do find, I guess, if I kind of comparatively speaking, lots of people do set up Facebook groups, even if they really build a lot of their business on LinkedIn, because Facebook enables that that group interaction to happen more and more easily. Like I do find with some of the changes that have happened to LinkedIn groups that they're not quite as active a place now as they were. And I guess it is fair to say that there are some things that are some changes that have been made that do make it a little bit more like some of the other social media platforms, like the fact that you can from the LinkedIn app you can record videos now, so you don't just have to so you don't just have to you can't just you can upload a video, but you can, from the app on your phone, you can record a video, and it's not quite live, but it's you can approve it and then post it on there.
Okay, that's interesting stuff. So you can actually record a video on LinkedIn. I wasn't aware of that.
You can. And what I've found is that, and I guess this is where, I guess, speaking to your question about kind of policing and how how it works and how the changes have happened. Like, I've found that when I use the LinkedIn app to record a video, I get more views of my video than if I was to just upload a video.
That's really
there are variables. It could be that piece of content spoke to people more than another piece. But I do think there have been some changes. What I have found is that when there are people that are posting more social things on LinkedIn, that it doesn't really get a huge amount of response, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. I think so.
But I think that one really great thing that has happened is that LinkedIn has changed from being this place that people think, oh, it's just where I have an electronic version of my CV and someone can pop on to my page that is static and just has my career history and that's it. Like, the changes have been really positive in this way, because you can, yes, it is about being professional and showing your career, but you can share more of yourself and now, and I guess I'm talking more like slightly off topic, but a lot of the people that I am connected with are like in HR, or they are kind of like in interviewing situations, or they are looking for some roles, and there's a lot of conversation about how interviewing techniques are redundant to actually finding out whether that person is really going to be great in that business, in that culture, in that job. So when you think about it, being able to show more of yourself, more of your personality, I think is a great thing.
That's an interesting point.
So stuffy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I smile because I've put a few. I'm probably one of the biggest culprits these days of throwing the odd Facebook post on there type thing. And sometimes it's like you say. I mean, it's just basically letting people into the reality of who I am as a person and people by people. And for me, my marketing strategy from day one, Janine, has been: here's my stall. This is what I've got to offer. I don't think I'll be for everybody, but I know if I'm true to myself, then there's no stretch. I can be who I am, and basically I know I can help many people too. So I just thought, for me, you know, sometimes it lightens it up a bit, and you know, the mood can get a bit stuffy on LinkedIn. I think sometimes where it's like, okay, you get people saying, well, that's not appropriate for this and whatever, and I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, there's worse things that happen at sea, and it's nice to see people sometimes for who they are, rather than that sort of that shop window front where they put the sort of sound bites out there that project as a CV. So I think that's, you know, an interesting thing, really. And that's what, you know, I think with yourself, I think that's one of the things that I found that, you know, your LinkedIn is an approachable profile. And I think that's really, from my point of view, when people reach out, that's key. Because the thing is, when you communicate on LinkedIn and you reach out to people, I think, in my opinion, sometimes the biggest concern is that when you've got that sort of shop window front, so to speak, you don't quite know who the other person is. It's like, well, you know, there's not a lot. This person is sort of, you're only going off what they sort of put on a CV type thing. But it's nice to sort of see the character, I think. And I can imagine recruiting for sure, you know, when you're recruiting on values as well, you want to know a bit more about the person without having to sort of, you know, do a Google search or go onto the Facebook too. But you know, I think that's useful information for sure. But the app's really interesting. I wasn't aware of that, so I'll look out for that. Watch this space. I'll be doing a video of the app soon if I can figure it out.
Do. And like, you know, you said before, you know, it might not be for everybody, but that's, you know, you're very successful with what you're doing. You have your followers, and I really do believe that, you know, if we try and speak to everybody, then we're really speaking to no one, because you know, regardless of what platform you're on, no one is likable to everybody. No one is everyone's like cup of tea. It's about you know, knowing that you are speaking and targeting and approaching your, you know, your ideal market, your ideal client in the way that appeals to them. And it sounds like you are.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, it's interesting stuff, and for me, what you say is interesting, really. And in my journey, a lot of things that I was doing when I first started out, without realizing, was doing the things that you mentioned, really, and then, you know, in time, I got a bit curious and sort of done a bit of research and just formalized things a little bit more in the way of marketing. But like you says, I think, you know, I think the interesting thing is that, just being true to yourself. I think there is a sort of case for, like, you know, adapted to the environment where, you know, I think that is important, that we do adapt to the environment. That can be quite useful in terms of our communication and what we do. But ultimately, I think as long as we're being true to ourselves, and then we're on the way, that's key. But in terms of sort of what you would do for a coach, and you know what I found, Janine, this is sort of one thing that I sort of talk about a lot when I do, because I do seminars and talks for organisations, and one of the ones I do is I talk about marketing, because people are fascinated in terms of the marketing side. And for me, some of the things I sort of suggest people do is like elevator pitch and stuff like that, you know. But also, what I suggest they do is that what I found in coaching is most people go into coaching and therapy even are very passionate about what they do, you know, that they really love what they do. And certainly for me, when I went into coaching and full time to work for myself, it was because I really loved what I did. And I left a position that was quite well paid in sport, in football. And for me, it was never really about the money, in the sense I thought, okay, I've left this position because I want to make a difference in the world. But I soon realized to make a difference in the world, you've got to survive too. So you've got to make money. But I found myself in a difficult situation because I was good at what I did. And I like to think I'm still good now. I'm still good now to improve even more without sort of, you know, sounding trite or whatever. And I worked really hard to get to where I am and continue to work hard. But the point being is that I realized that what I'd won award-wise in coaching and all the studies I did and that sort of stuff didn't really mean a great deal if I didn't market in the right way. Because I can get results, you know, I could always get results with people. And in sport, I won many things. In therapy, I'd won or done many courses even, and I've been nominated for different awards and stuff like that. So I got results, but the issue I found was the way to find a way to get out there. And I found for me, a lot of coaches, what happens is that they're very good at what they do. The big issue they've got is they try and be all things to everybody. They try and do the website, they try and do the marketing, they try and do the whatever it is, and the difficult thing is it waters down their ability. Just being a good coach, I think, in my opinion, will only take us so far. Word of mouth is good, but equally, when you've got social media now, I find, in my opinion, some of the best coaches getting left behind, and you're getting sort of people out there that they're good at social media. I'm not saying they're bad, they're good at coaches too, but there's not a great deal of difference between them and other people who aren't getting work, just the way they market themselves, the way they package themselves. That's the sort of what I've been seeing, and there's certain people out there that they could just tweak themselves a little bit more and get a plan together and get out there. They get a client base, but the issue is that they don't feel comfortable marketing because they think, well, certainly like I did, I thought, well, if I've got to market myself, then but I realised that that's equally, if not more important than the work itself.
Yeah, I can really resonate with what you're saying there. I mean, it's there is some like absolutely phenomenal coaching training available now. Like there's people can do some fantastic programs and come out having being absolutely brilliant coaches, but in a lot of those programs you don't really go into those steps around how you're going to market yourself and who you're going to market yourself to. And I was having a really interesting conversation with somebody who I'd actually connected with on LinkedIn and met on LinkedIn around there's almost two parts to this. There is the kind of defining, okay, so I'm a coach. What kind of coach am I? Who to, and what makes me different from this coach that's standing next to me? There's that piece that people often don't do. And then there is the technical marketing side. Like, so, how do I find these clients? How do I, for a lot of us, it isn't about the money. It's about helping people move from a place where they're stuck to a place where they're free, or a place where things are better and they're achieving the goals that they really want to achieve. But with all the best will in the world, if we want to make a business of these things, we need to earn some money, and we need to be comfortable and become more comfortable with marketing and selling ourselves. And from there, I guess what I found is that by breaking through some of those hang-ups that I had about it, you build your client base. You use, yes, you can use, I use LinkedIn, but then I get recommendations, and that's where things start to flow. Like it's, you connect, you get a lead, you work with somebody, I work with somebody else. They talk, I get people coming to me from other clients, that kind of thing. So it's something that I think that people do get slightly left with, because you go into it with all the best will in the world, and you come out of it perhaps feeling a little bit like you kind of go in, your knowledge has changed hugely from before you did the training, but you still don't know how you're going to promote yourself. You have the technical skills, but you don't know how to promote yourself. And that is about having a marketing strategy. That for me is what it's about.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. And I think for me, Janine, is, people sort of, there's a lot of stuff out there, like say 7 steps or whatever. And I think, in my opinion, that structure is important to a point, but also flexibility. And I think that with all the will in the world, it'd be nice if you sort of, could put like this, 7-step strategy in place and you're on the way. But people out, I say 7-step strategy. You see loads of people putting stuff out there, do these steps, and what's subjective to one person might not work for somebody else. I think having the structure is important, but also being flexible too. if it's not working, then maybe do I stick, do I twist, do I do something else? I think it's really important from what I can see to have a little flexibility. And if something's working really, really well, then go for it. But that might work for someone that might not work for somebody else as well, too, I found. And that's the interesting thing too. But from the point of view of LinkedIn, what are some sort of, could you share some key tips? I mean, you've already shared some interesting things already, but what are some sort of things that you would sort of, some tips that you would have?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I would say, I touched on this already, so I won't go into huge detail, but, when you're, so using me as an example, I use LinkedIn to generate leads for my business, and I help other people to do that. That is a very, that's a technical way of doing things. Well, not technical, but I'm using a social media site to be able to do that. But how am I doing that? It's always leading with value. I like to talk to people. I like to learn more about them and listen. And that is when you're building a relationship to working with somebody, as you well know, like it's it's about how, like you say, it's about kind of, for me, I'm a structured person. I'm like a planner, but I'm also very aware that this is not a one size fits all. So like kind of when you are building that relationship, it is really about listening and understanding that person, and that always value first. Like we don't like to be sold to, generally, like people don't like it. But what people do want is to get to know you, get to know that you can help them, trust you, and know that you've offered them some value. So that would be my kind of, I guess, what's in my mind. That's always what's in my mind, like as I'm communicating with people. That's how I kind of drive my relationships. And then on a kind of practical side of like, what are some of the steps that I do? So I make sure that I have a really engaging profile on LinkedIn. Like I have like clear images. I have, my banner says exactly what it is that I do. I make sure that like people can know how to connect with me straight away. They don't have to trawl through my information to find out how they could, talk with me. Like I make sure that it's clear that like this, this is how we can, get to know each other more, begin our work together. I do post regularly. I probably post my own content 3 to 4 times a week, and then I post other content that is relevant to the people that I am kind of working with as well. But one thing I would say is that it doesn't have to take a lot of time. So an example of that is I may have a theme for the week around the content I'm going to share, and I can write a short article, and then I'll write a video, and then I may turn that into a blog, and then I will share that across platforms. So really, it's like that there are things that you can do that mean that you don't have to be sitting down every day to say, I've got to write an article now, I've got to do a video now. It's about thinking like how you can repurpose something.
So you'll have like a theme for the week, and the theme for the week might be something sort of pressing it could be in the media, it could be your own theme, and then you'll sort of off the back of that do maybe a video, an article, and carry on the theme.
Yes. So for example, towards the end of last week, I'd been tagged in quite a few articles and posts by other people, specifically around connection strategies. Like, how do you connect with people? If someone was to send me like a blank connection message without introducing myself, what would I do? Like, how would I manage this situation? Like, I had a whole load of kind of messages that people had connected me about. So so I wrote an article kind of answering some of the questions.
Oh, okay.
I then jumped on and did a video, which was like my top tips for how you do this. And then I posted that on my Facebook page as well. So, there are ways that I had, all I really had to do was sit down to write one thing. I had all the content there because it had come to me, then jump on and do a video. And I'm engaging with people in different ways. Like some people prefer video, some people prefer to read an article.
Yeah, visual.
So
So
it's not like I'm sat there every single day thinking, what am I going to talk about today? It's always relevant. It's always something that's going to be valuable and help somebody. And I would also say, like, another tip is, like, so many people wait to be connected, like wait for people to connect with them. Or they don't know, they don't really know the approach that they should take to connecting with people. But you can do this in a really, like, genuine and valuable way. And, like, yes, like on all social media platforms, there are people that are just going to send messages to your inbox offering, a solution to a problem that you might not even have, trying to sell something. Like, that does happen. It happens, it happens anywhere. It happens when people cold call, like it's always happened. But it is very, very possible and imperative. If what you are wanting to do is grow leads for your business, it's imperative that you are actively connecting with people.
I see what you mean. Of course, definitely. So one way to connect would be to say, do a theme for the week, and off the back of that, do an article, a video, and so on and so forth. And then that's sort of like, putting it out there, and people can read that. And if they sort of buy into you, then they can want to know more information and stuff like that. So,
yeah, very much. I mean,
and you'll share it everywhere across, like the Facebook, the Instagram, and Twitter as well.
Where I believe it to be relevant, then yes, I'll share it.
Of course, for sure.
And it's about, it's the most important thing, which I didn't say, but the most important thing is it's really positioning yourself as that authority in your niche. Like, that's, that people, like, you're the one that is presenting that information, sharing it, like helping people with it. And that is what is going to have people coming to you. It's what sets you apart from somebody else.
So in a way, Janine, it's a bit like, say, going to a networking group where you can go to a networking group physically and meet, say, 20 people. If you're lucky, maybe a little bit less or more. But here you've got the power of meeting so many more people with a shorter time frame. Because sort of something resonated there where you could sort of drive to a network group. It would take an hour or two to drive there. Then you've got to park up and turn up. And a lot of people who go there, a lot of the time, in my opinion, they're not even decision makers or from that point of view. So with LinkedIn, you've got thousands of people. You could, by doing an article in an hour or two, however long it takes, and do the video, definitely makes sense to me in terms of getting it out there. But in social media, say LinkedIn, what are your thoughts on, say, the volume of people that you accept friend requests from? So people, I'll be honest, I get loads of people requesting to be friends on LinkedIn. I just sort of accept it, I think, and unless they sort of end up to be some sort of weirdo, so to speak, and send some crazy requests, I'm fine with that. So, I mean, you do get, I'm sure we've all had the experience of the social media, for all its great things, it's far and few in between, but you're going to get people who just think, well, there's no point. But ultimately, for me, I'm more than happy to accept friend requests. That sort of builds the tally up. So it's a bit different to, say, the Facebook business page. People just sort of like it and they're on the way. Or at least my business page and Twitter as well, they sort of just follow you automatically. With LinkedIn, what I found is they got to request through, unless I'm wrong there. It's a bit more like the Facebook personal thing.
So you would need to, as you say, like, actively accept somebody's connection.
Was a Facebook business page, they just like it and they're on the way. That's what, because I've got a Facebook business page and basically they just like the page.
That's right. Yeah, so you don't have to accept a like. You know, if they like it, they like it, and they can, you know, they can be on
The
like they
page,
can
yeah,
be on your page.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
But no, I mean, you know, going what you said about volume, like I think of it less about volume and more about if the connection is going to be of benefit to both parties.
That's a
So
great point, yeah. Because you can have a million people,
yeah,
like, that you connected to, but if they're sort of in different fields, and for me, I think one of the reasons in LinkedIn I've got a big network is that I'm quite variable. I write books, I do music, I do
yeah,
training, I do therapy, I do coaching, and I get sort of people coming in from various channels, you know,
yes,
from that point of view. But I can sort of see what you mean in terms of from a coaching point of view. I think it's imperative, I would think, to be, because I suppose you could spend a lot of time building relationships with people that, in the end, it's not a social network in the sense that, you know, socializing. It is what it is, business. So from a coaching point of view, I can see people spending a lot of time on there if they go for volume, just establishing contacts, but not getting in and out of it. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. But if they want to
yeah.
attract business, then that's a different story altogether, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of connections on LinkedIn, and all of my connections are, you know, they're thought through. So, you know, if somebody when people send me invitations to connect, if I don't know the reason, if they've just sent me a blank connection, I will go back to them and ask them, like, you know, what were you hoping to get out of being connected with me? And you know, if it and when I connect with somebody, I always explain to them, like, this is why I thought it would be useful for us to connect with each other. If it's that I don't know them, you know, I guess because I'm like, you know, many coaches, like, there are people that you've trained with, there are people that you've perhaps worked with previously, and you know, a lot of people are connected with people on LinkedIn that they do already know in a work capacity. You know, I think that's changed quite a lot, and people are much more open to connecting with people they haven't known before, purely because they're, you know, you're in the same industry. But yeah, I think it's if to kind of really have a you know, a worthwhile strategy, think about, like, you know, the value in that connection. If it's gonna if you think that there's potential for you to work with that person, or you feel that they are able to help you at some point, then yeah, like that's when you connect and get to know more about each other.
That's interesting stuff, and then you can sort of build a relation from there, and go from there. So from a coaching point of view, let's say there's a startup coach who sort of will do two scenarios. You've got the person who's just starting out, and the coach who's been sort of going for a while. Would you say that the strategy would be the same or different, or is there anything different that might be worth sort of noting? Let's say someone starts out. I mean, let's say someone's starting out in coaching, and they've been on LinkedIn for a little while, and things aren't sort of working out for them. What do you think they could do, Janine? So the new startup coach. I think I've got a question there. Yeah. Okay, I've got a question. I'll ask you after. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So yeah, as a startup coach, I would I mean, I would really recommend, like, you know, doing some, like, either doing some training, I mean, or, you know, really playing around with the site and finding out what it can do. But it's about, you know, it is about having that great profile, that approachable profile, that is, you know, that is tailored to what you're doing now. So, you know, for example, if you are now a coach, your previous history was accountancy, like, but what you want is to find coaching clients. As impressive as, like, your accountancy qualifications or whatever it is may be, that is irrelevant to what you're doing now.
Of course,
and so it's really about positioning yourself as, you know, as a coach, and whatever coach it is that you are, whether it's a life coach or leadership or mindful or executive, whatever it is that you're going into. but I personally, I don't necessarily think that yes, everyone's going to do things slightly differently, and that's how, you know, like it's like any coaching client, like you know, the relationships are all different depending on who the person is and that you're working with. They're all going to take a different flow or a different route, but the kind of the methods are the same. You know, it's regular engagement, regular connection, following up, like leading with value. All of those principles, I really believe that they apply to anybody.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. It's really useful information. And so, from the LinkedIn point of view, I know it's hard to sort of quantify, but there are, in your thoughts, Janine, there are people looking for coaches on LinkedIn. Would you say that there are people looking for trainers and coaches on LinkedIn? Or
I do, and I do feel like the approach is different depending on who you're trying to target. I mean, you know, you could be a coach that's looking for new executive level clients, and therefore and who are the people that manage that in an organization. It could be like in the HR and the leadership, the learning and the development team. Like it's so they could be the people that you're you're targeting. A different approach, or a different kind of search, a different approach it would be taken if you were, say, a life coach looking to build like a one-on-one relationship with somebody. But you know, it does work. It's worked for me. I've helped
that's interesting stuff.
Other people. I've helped other people get it to work. And so yeah, really, it's about refining that and deciding on that at the beginning, to know that when you are connecting with people, you're doing it in a you're doing it in a thoughtful way. It's not just kind of like, oh, I'll just message any old person. You really are kind of contacting your ideal client.
I know. I mean, I've had people contact me through LinkedIn for like training and stuff like that as well. And whether they've sort of known me from LinkedIn or known me from a different site and connected on LinkedIn, whether they've sort of basically found me through that, I'm not sure. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure. But I have had people who've come through LinkedIn and sort of inquire about what I do, services and stuff like that. So for sure, I think definitely having a presence on there is useful. I guess the thing is really, Janine, is knowing how much time you spend building the presence on there, what you're getting out of it, what you want to get out of it, and then the main things. But things like you said today, I think are quite useful, knowing to choose a theme and to do videos and do different ways to meet different learning styles. I think for sure I can see that being of use and surely connecting to people. Because the thing is, really, even if you wanted to, physically you just couldn't keep in touch with everybody every day, every week. So
nor should you, because
precisely.
it would be annoying.
No, exactly. I mean, you'd be like, for sure. But I do find that with LinkedIn, even people have been friends sometimes for like, I call them friends or connections on there. Connections for like 4 or 5, even many more years than that, and they get in touch out of the blue. It's like, I've had people 5, 6 years after we probably connected get in touch saying, "Oh, have you got any courses coming up? Or have you got any this?" And so people are watching. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that people are often like, I think amazed is perhaps too strong a word, but when they when people get back in contact with people that they they've been connected with for a while, and find out where they're at and that kind of thing as well, like that can really it can really generate like a lot, it can generate repeat business, like just putting yourself in that person's mind again is often really important.
That's a good point. Yeah, for sure. And I know, exactly. Past clients as well, past students on courses, and I do connect, and sometimes even you forget that they're there, and in the sense that you kind of I wouldn't say they disappear, but you don't hear for like a while. Then, you know, 3 or 4 years after they've been on course, and they'll say you've got anything coming up. And if they didn't see you on LinkedIn, they don't know what you're up to. They might not go in touch, so for sure. And yeah, that I find, you know, quite useful for sure. From the point of view,
Sorry. Yeah, I guess another thing I would say as well is, you know, it's really important to keep in mind, like, again, like that just because somebody might, what you're offering, that like the coaching that you're offering, the training that you're offering, that might not be right for that person right now, but it doesn't mean it's not going to be right for them in the future. So, you know, again, part of my strategy is that I find so important is, you know, keeping on track with who I'm connected with, who I've spoken to, what we've spoken about. So I know when it's an appropriate time to go, you know, to go back to them, you know, about something again, or, you know, if, like, for example, at the moment, I've been doing some research on with coaches on, you know, what are their kind of biggest challenges in their business at the moment, and, you know, what their marketing strategies are, and how they use LinkedIn. Like, this is a huge amount of data that I've been able to collate, which is just like hugely informing me on how I continue to build like relationships with people, and what is going on for, you know, for a lot of coaches right now. Like,
I think it's, you know, wonderful what you do, and I think it's really good because, you know, you sort of really specialise in there, and I think it's a great thing because in the day, like you said there, it's good to have someone who's doing the research and doing it, and it's hard to cover every base all the time, and it's quite useful because you've got to be in it to win it, I suppose. And if you've got the profile on there, and just by tweaking it a bit here or there, or doing one thing would make a huge difference, you know. And it only takes, I always think, Janine, it takes one article, one video. You never know who's watching, and you're well on the way, you know. And it opens things up, and, you know, one becomes 2, 3, 5. You're on the way. And for me, it's just the attitude is just keep going, you know, keep persistent, precisely, keep going,
and consistent,
You know, be adaptable, change, and have a look around. But it's useful to know the research as well, and that's useful to know. That sort of stuff, I think, comes in handy because sometimes you just can't see the wood through the trees. You know, the theme is good, knowing what theme to run with, because you could write the best article in the world, but if it's not applicable to the current climate, who's going to, like, you know, brush over it? So I think it's useful. I think it's, you know, for a coaching point of view, for people who are starting out, people who sort of might be sort of well into the career and a bit stale in the sense that they're running out of ideas. And
like, you know, like people, and, you know, I've had a few conversations about this week, like people that are wanting to go potentially into a new niche, like they're established in a certain area, but they really want to try and work with people in a different area. And so it's a case of, you know, rebranding and making like connections within a different, you know, with a different group of people. So yeah, it's there's in my opinion, it has benefits to everybody at whatever stage you're at.
No, definitely. And I think that for me, I would say that LinkedIn, in my opinion, would be, from my experience, probably the most useful platform to generate business leads. If I sort of compare, if I was to say, and I'm doing it in a loose way, it's in the top of my head, but if I was to sort of compare the following I've got on, say, Facebook business, on Twitter and LinkedIn, I'd have to say that LinkedIn, in proportion to the people I've got connections on there to what's come off the back of it, I'd have to say that was the one. You know, Facebook business for me is more of a way to help existing students with new material and to support their learning. Also let them know what I'm up to too, and that sort of stuff, really. But from lead generation, Janine, I'd say Facebook business for me, I've got a pretty big following on Facebook business, has probably been more minimal than definitely LinkedIn. And then Twitter, you know, it's neither here or there from a business point of view, my experience, you know, in terms of, same again, you know, sort of short, sharp bursts, people see what you're up to, and you put new content out there. And I use the platforms a lot to support the learners I've already got, in any way I can, and not that I give anyone advice to say I've got all the answers, or it's just learning experience. I'll do tutorials, I'll do little motivational videos, I'll do like iTunes and stuff like that, and I'll get it out there, and it's for existing learners, and anyone new can see what I'm all about. But I have to say LinkedIn, to be fair, would be, from a business point of view, where of all the social media platforms, the leads, and even like word of mouth on LinkedIn. Say if you worked with someone before, then their friend joins you on LinkedIn, or their colleague at business joins on LinkedIn, and it's good too. And what I like about LinkedIn too, what you mentioned there, is the profile, because the key thing for me, people can write the recommendation, they give you the recommendation, and it is what it is. It's like I'll use, funny you should say, that reminds me now, that I'll use like the LinkedIn profile I've got, and I'll send it to people even when I'm doing like a newsletter. And the reason being, so they can see, because from a review point of view, it's as real as it's going to get. If someone gives you, if someone gives you, it is what it is, and basically from that point of view, people can write whatever these days on various means. And I've seen it I've seen it on. I was watching a YouTube video the other day about some, I can't remember who it was now, but one of them sort of review sites, and how people go about writing stuff, and you got people who write things that other people deliberetely and that sort of thing, and you got people who write, it's not the truth really. So in that view, LinkedIn, it is what it is,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so so that's that social proof, that recommendation of real people. Just it goes a huge way. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And sometimes what I'll say to people, you can have a look at the people I've worked with on LinkedIn, and it is what it is. They've written me the recommendation, they've given it to me. That's that social proof from a business point of view. If a company's saying to me to deliver training for us, even if it's emailed outside LinkedIn, I'll say, well. And they'll say, what other work have you done? I'll say, well, you look at the LinkedIn profile, and that is what it is. The reviews are as real as they're going to get. They're real, and that sort of stuff. And all reviews for me are real, and people, write us reviews and that sort of stuff. But from the point of view, you're going to try and decide who to go for.
Yes.
It would make sense to me if you want to get an accurate reflection of what the person's all about. That's the way to go, because anyone can write stuff on Google about people. I mean, these days you've got keyboard warriors, you've got competitors, you've got runners, you've got people who do all that stuff really. But LinkedIn, it is what it is for me. From that point of view too, it's interesting you say. I think it's a great thing to see where someone's up to. But I'm very mindful of time. I'm very grateful to join us. Jenny, I could talk for as long as we could talk for, really. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, have you got some details they can get in touch? I mean, you have a LinkedIn.
All jokes aside, LinkedIn is the best way to get in contact with me. Like, as far as I'm aware, there are only 2 Janine Capaldis on LinkedIn. And I am the one that that is quite obviously in social media relationship marketing. So so please do send me a connection, and it would be really useful to me if people would say that they've watched this interview, because then I know where they've come from, where they've seen me. But yeah, that's the best place. And if people want to talk to me, then that's great. We'll have a consultation to determine how it can be the right platform to to grow their business.
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure. And it's been interesting. It's been fascinating. I think that's a lot to think about. And I think on top of that, there's certainly things that could be worth implementing. Not that I'm suggesting that they've got to make their own mind up really in terms of what they do, but it's useful to sort of get and see what people are saying, like yourself, who've got an experience and expertise in the area, to go from there. But I really want to thank you again, Janine. It's been a privilege having you on board.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
Again, thanks very much, Janine. I really appreciate it. And anyone, if they can contact me as well, and I can sort of forward you the details too, and go from there. Thanks again, Janine.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.